Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Now, I've got a series entitled The Beauty and Eloquence of Surah Al-Fatiha, and the links for these are on the left-hand side. And I've just covered Alhamdulillah in those 4 videos. And I've got a response from Sentient Raven. There's the response. And he mentioned some good points regarding the miracle of the Qur'an. So obviously he doesn't believe the Qur'an is a miracle. And he's mentioned a few points. And I actually wanted to touch on his main argument in the video, which was the following. If somebody wanted to say something and they did it in the best way possible, the most eloquent way possible, what would be a miracle in that? And he used a very simple example to illustrate his point. And I don't think it's a very good example, and I'll explain the reasons why. So you can watch his video, you can watch my videos, and I'm still in the process of producing further parts to it, because obviously I've only touched 2 words in Surah Al-Fatiha. Anyway, let's see what he says. Now, he's used a very simple example, which is the screwdriver example. I'm sure you saw his little screwdriver there in the video. He says that, well, I wanted to say screwdriver, and I used the word screwdriver for it. And he said, well, that was the most eloquent way to say. And he compared that with the words chosen in the Qur'an, specifically the words Alhamdulillah. Now, I want to just explain how flawed that argument is. So, as I said, he's really oversimplified the matter. Eloquence has many considerations. I mean, just with a screwdriver, there are many types of screwdrivers out there. Different functions, different, sizes, widths, different brand names, their appearance is different. You can describe them in different ways. And, you can use language. I mean, he's really, as I said, oversimplified language. So language is very vast, and you can do so much with language. And I've just thought of one example of this. This is a syringe. I know a lot of people that don't like syringes when they go to the doctor and he has to give them one. It's unpleasant. Now, if, for example, you wanted or to indicate how painful the syringe was, you could refer to it as a screwdriver entering or protruding your skin. You don't need to explain details that, it was really painful and, it felt like it was cutting into my skin and all these things. By just calling it a screwdriver, you allude to these things. So that's just a simple example, but I mean, creative people out there can do a lot better, much better. So that's my basic points. Now, I want to also explain the aspects of being eloquent. What considerations do you need? Is it just about thinking of something, a book or a cup or a computer, and just calling it computer or calling it a cup? Is that what it takes to be eloquent? There are many things that are difficult to write about or to speak about. For example, an emotional state of somebody, very hard to capture in just words. So you need somebody, quite a good writer, and you need to be quite eloquent and quite creative to be able to express the feelings that he's going through. And there's a saying that says, words can't explain how I feel, and to an extent that's true. It's quite hard to indicate exactly how you feel in just words. So doing that is eloquence. So the Qur'an, what makes it a miracle? Is it just the words in the Qur'an that make it a miracle? Obviously not. I mean, word choice obviously is one of these things, but there are many other aspects. So just briefly, we have word order. So sometimes mentioning one thing before another thing gives importance to it, or maybe it's more relevant in a subject matter. The Qur'an uses this a lot. You find two verses in different chapters. The same words are used but in different order, and there's a reason why they're used in different order. Also, you have word choice. So obviously the choice of words you use, because Arabic is a very rich language. There's words have a lot of meaning, and they all can be traced back to a common root. There's this video that explains this in a bit more detail. And also, you need to take into consideration how words fit in with other words in a sentence. So some words might not be the best word to use with another word for a number of reasons. And finally is the sentence structure. Now with the sentence structure, what I mean by that is the positioning of words. In Arabic, you can position words in a number of different ways. In Arabic, it's very flexible. You can move, the predicate before the subject, the subject or the object or the verb before the verb. There's a lot of things you can do, and for this reason, it's much more difficult to express something in the most perfect manner. It's very difficult, much more difficult in Arabic than it is in English. So that's based on the structure of a sentence. There's some points, there's more, but they're the basic ones. And there's also external aspects to it as well, which are the context. Obviously, the context would dictate what words you use and how you say something, obviously. And who the audience is, depending on who you're speaking to. I mean, you don't speak to everybody the same way, so you need to take into consideration that also. And also, finally, the intended response. So this is actually quite difficult to do sometimes. If you want somebody to change somebody's opinion on something, if it has the desired effect, then it's eloquent. If it doesn't, then it's not so eloquent. So that's one aspect of eloquence. And the Qur'an uses all these aspects and many more. So when you compare using one word, or when you compare that to the screwdriver example of choosing the word screwdriver because you meant a screwdriver, it's like telling some art critic that the Mona Lisa is just a bunch of colors. Now I hope you can understand what I'm saying here. It's quite extensive. Eloquence is not something which anyone can do, and the miracle in the Quran is that it's done throughout the Quran. There's not one single verse that doesn't have it. Now, for example, Shakespeare, he has some eloquent works, no doubt. But if you look throughout his life and all his works, the way he spoke, was it all eloquent? Was everything he said eloquent? No. I'm sure some of his early works were not as eloquent. And he developed. He studied a lot and he developed, and he became a good writer. That's another aspect to it, is no human being can be eloquent all the time. Especially a man who cannot read or write and didn't write the words, he dictated the words word for word, without stumbling on words, without taking words back and saying, no, I meant this. He didn't do all that, and that was over a 23-year period. Now, to do it for 1 day or 2 days, it's believable, but to do it over a 23-year period without making one mistake and doing it in the most eloquent way, and for nobody till this day to produce something like it, these amount to the fact that the Quran is a miracle. And finally, I'd just like to thank you, Senti Raven, for the video you've produced. It's given us this medium to communicate with one another and share what we have. And I hope that we can keep talking about these issues. And peace be unto you all. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.